had sent all heat roaring straight up to the roof. March the 25th was a particularly vile day. Harriet knew the kitchen fire was almost completely blocked with soot. It was possible to live without the drawing-room fire, but the kitchen was another matter. Since this past winter, it had served as drawing-room and dining-room as well as kitchen. Harriet could not afford to pay a sweep, so that morning she scaled the roof and poked various brooms tied together with string down the old chimney. The resultant fall of soot blackened everything in the kitchen. Aunt Rebecca went into strong hysterics and retired to her chilly bedchamber, leaving Harriet to clear up the mess. Harriet worked grimly on throughout the morning until the kitchen was sparkling again. Looking at herself in the cracked glass on the kitchen wall, she saw to her dismay that she was as black as any sweep. The kitchen fire was blazing cheerfully for the first time in years, but the thought of boiling kettle after kettle of water to fill a bath seemed just too much of an effort to the exhausted Harriet. Besides, Aunt Rebecca would be horrified at the very idea of anyone taking a full bath for anything other than medicinal purposes. Harriet stared moodily at her soot-streaked face in the glass. Clear, grey, heavy-lashed eyes stared back. Her black hair, dull black now with soot, hung in heavy, tangled masses almost to her waist. She felt gritty and filthy all over. She trailed out to the pump in the yard and began to pump water energetically into a leather bucket. Then an idea came to her. There was no one for miles around, and Aunt Rebecca would not quit her room until she was sure the kitchen was clean. Why not strip everything off and scrub down under the pump? It would only take a few freezing minutes, and then she could run indoors and rub herself dry in front of the kitchen fire. She went back into the house and into the small maid's room at the back of the kitchen, where she slept, the large bedrooms on the upper floors being too vast to heat. She laid out clean underwear, yellowed and darned, a well-worn woolen round gown, coarse grey stockings, and a clean calico pinafore, then carried the lot into the kitchen and piled them on a chair in front of the fire to warm. Then she removed all her dirty, sooty clothes and placed them in a basket in the corner, ready for washing. She took a deep breath. If she stayed much longer in front of the fire, she might lose her courage. Stark naked, clutching a bar of cheap laundry soap, she ran out of the kitchen and into the yard, seized the pump handle, and let out a yell as the first flood of icy water struck her bare skin. She soaped and scrubbed furiously until she was sure there was not a single particle of soot left in her hair or on her body. It was when she was turning away from the pump to make her dash back to the kitchen that she realized there was a man on horseback watching her. Frozen to the spot, not with the cold, but with shock, she stared up at him. He had a hard, high-nosed, aristocratic face and a quantity of fashionably cut hair as black as hers. His hazel eyes raked over her body from head to foot, and an appreciative smile curved his lips. He held his hat in one hand, and as she stared at him, eyes wide with shock, he raised it in a salute. Harriet gave a little scream and then ran for the kitchen door, hurtling inside and then barring and bolting it behind her. She could feel herself turning scarlet with shame and embarrassment, blushing from the soles of her feet to the top of her head. She rubbed herself dry as quickly as possible and scrambled into her clean clothes, then twisted the damp masses of her black hair up into a knot. She crept to the kitchen window and looked out. There was no sign of the stranger. She had not heard him ride off, but the thick, shaggy grass was wet and spongy and had probably muffled the sounds of his departure. There were shuffling, coughing sounds that heralded the approach of Aunt Rebecca. Harriet decided to tell her nothing about the visit of the strange man. Aunt would